Good morning, councillors. I'd like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to the City Infrastructure Committee of the 10th of the 6th, and I declare this meeting open at 10 a.m. I would like to advise attendees in the room that this meeting is being webcast and audio recorded. We'll go to attendance and leave of absence. We have two today. We have a leave of absence from Councillor Bradley and a leave of absence from Councillor Jeremiah. Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Wilcox has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder?
What?
Hey? Thank you. We'll keep it through the chair. Do I have a mover in Councillor Wilcox? Second to Councillor Hall. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously with everyone in the room. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the confirmation of previous committee meeting minutes. There is now a motion displayed on the screen to confirm the previous minutes. The minutes of the Infrastructure Committee held on the 13th of May be confirmed. Thank you, Councillor Hall, for moving. Do I have a seconder? Councillor St. Ledger. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? There being none, I now open the floor to vote. It has been carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move on to declarations of conflicts of interest. I now refer to the declaration of conflict of interest. Any councillors wish to declare of conflict of interest today? There being none. We'll move straight into reports. Our first report is a public report, 6.1, which is a road name change for Brunswick Street, South Maclean, Boyne Close, Homeview and Nofke Court, Logan Reserve. We'll head it over to Ms Megan Gould to lead the charge.
Good morning, councillors. So the report one is just regarding 3 road name changes. Brunswick Street, South Maclean to Clarence Street, South Maclean, Boyne Close, Homeview to Boyne Road, Homeview, and Nofke Court, Logan Reserve to Nofke Road, Logan Reserve. These come about when development applications are amended or updated and the road layouts no longer sort of make sense or could create some confusion for emergency services. Does anybody have any questions regarding those ones? No?
Of course you can, Councillor Slim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there weren't any complaints from any of the residents about these road changes?
No, so we will, so the draft or the letter that was sent out is included in the report. We send that out.
Yep.
We reach out to those landowners and no concerns or complaints.
Okay, just wanted to double check. Thank you.
How good. We'll have a motion up on the board soon. When you've read the motion, if someone would care to move it, please. Councillor St. Ledger. We'll have a seconder when you're ready. Councillor Jackson. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? If not, I open the floor to vote. That has been carried unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll move straight into item 6.2, another road name change for Speargrass Drive at Logan Village. It's a public report, and back to you, Ms Megan Gould.
Yep, not too much to add. So essentially another road name change, similar reason, Speargrass Drive, Logan Village to Marley Way, Logan Village. And as I said, this comes about when there's been a change in development layout and it may create some confusion to leave it how it was originally named. Any questions?
There being none, you're on fire today. Get ready for the last one. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor St. Ledger, a seconder. Councillor Jackson, all those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried. Moving on to our next one, item 6.3, the 2026-27 Federal Black Spot Program Submissions Public Report. And Ms Megan Gould, you've got it again.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to seek council approval to proceed with submitting our applications for the federal government's Black Spot program for 2026 to 27. The Black Spot program is federally funded. It's aimed at reducing fatalities and serious injuries on our roads. Specifically, the program targets road locations where crashes have occurred or there's a high risk of crashes occurring. The Australian government has allocated $150 million nationally for the next round, 2026 to 27, and that includes $28 million in Queensland. So that's shared amongst all applications. The funding per project is capped at $3 million. It was previously $2 million, so that has been increased. Nominations that we put forward are assessed by the Department of Main Roads, Transport and Main Roads, and there's certain eligibility criteria that they have to meet, and they prioritise low-cost, high-return projects that offer the most safety improvement. We identify our nominated sites based on the crash data, which is sourced from Queensland Road Crash Database, which is maintained by TMR. We've been very successful in receiving approximately $20 million of Black Spot funding in the last 4 years across 18 road safety projects. So the report did include the location and current status of some of the previously approved projects. There's 2 projects that were recently approved for funding under the 2025-26 Black Spot program, which included West Mount Cotton Road and Kokoda Street and York Street in Beenleigh, so those are being delivered. The report has included 9 locations that we are proposing to put forward for this round. There is a further one that has been raised recently that we will consider and do our assessment before we finalise those nominations. The selected projects are based on meeting that eligibility criteria, a council-wide review of crash clusters, achieving cost-effective solutions, and as I said, it's capped out at that $3 million per site. The benefit-cost ratio, which needs to be greater than 4, and really our confidence in seeking the funding based on the criteria. Mentioned that one. So the final submissions are just subject to RIP confirming that the selection criteria continues to be met as we work through the details of those projects and consult with TMR. At this stage, we're not looking to include any more on the current round, but we can always consider other locations for future rounds. We really need to be quite targeted and conscious of the applications that we do put forward. We're quite careful in selecting projects that we think do really meet that criteria. There's a risk if we put in a list of too many projects, it starts to look like we're being a little bit greedy, and it might actually not work in our favour. As I said, we have been successful to date because we have been quite targeted in the requests that we've put forward. And that was what I had. So, as I said, the report is about seeking that support of going forward with those applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I've got Councillor Murphy. I'll put myself first. It's impressive when I look at it because we've won 20% of the entire budget over the 4 years, give or take, haven't we? So out of 77 councils. So there's 76 councils fighting over the last 80%. So, and that all comes down to that you're meeting the requirements, you know what to look at. Because a lot of times I know it's crash and per cost, plus you can't spend over $3 million per the project, can you?
Carly, you're able to clarify, there's $3 million capped funding from TMR.
Yeah, they're currently, the new cap is $3 million. It used to be $2 million, so we were capped at $2 million for all previous projects.
And can we co-contribute?
There is an opportunity to co-contribute, I guess, but we generally look for 100% funding and it also affects the cost-benefit ratio as well. I think any co-funding would also still be taken into account in that calculation to make sure that getting the most benefit for those projects. So
the cost-benefit ratio is one of the critical criteria for it.
That's correct,
so
yes.
Having that $2 or $3 million cap really that shrinks the roads that you can use that we can apply for. I think you're doing a good job. I think the fact that you've smuggled 20% of the budget off 77 councils speaks for itself. But I'll hand it over to Councillor Murphy.
Thank you. Through the chair. Thank you to Carla Megan for this report. Thank you. I just have a quick question with regards to number 18, the Kokoda and York Street intersection. There's no doubt that it is a black spot and there's accidents that happen there all the time. I'm just wondering whether the scope has taken into consideration that is going to be the new corner of the ambulance station and the new police station that is getting developed there by state government. I just wondered whether, when you're doing this intersection, that has been taken into consideration as well.
Thank you for that information. We weren't aware of that new development.
Okay, yeah, so that vacant block of land on the corner has been purchased by the state government, and that's where the new ambulance station first is going to be completed, and then an extension to the police station as well. So that corner will need to make sure that we can have that traffic or those emergency vehicles being able to get in and out of there as much as possible. And obviously right next door is St. Joseph's school, which has a high amount of school, and we've also got the other traffic intersection on City Road that will interfere if we do put traffic lights there. So something to take in consideration. Happy to talk to you guys about it, but please engage with the state government as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I read this report and I started asking questions because in 8.2 it says Divisional Councillors have been engaged on locations within their division during normal regular traffic meetings where specific safety concerns have been discussed. This wasn't raised in my traffic meeting and it wasn't raised outside of my traffic meeting. In fact, I had a meeting with officers after the death on Augusta Street to talk about the diversion of heavy vehicles to Meakin Road that travel up Queen's Road and get them off Augusta Street. And again, this wasn't raised during that meeting. It was confirmed that it wasn't discussed with me. Had it been discussed with me, I would have raised the concerns of the local businesses, which lost some of their parking after a decision was made for the Animal Management Centre to remove parking because we needed an extra gate. And then I wasn't consulted on that. And then I wasn't consulted when we moved the bus stop on Queen's Road, which then took up more of their business parking. I wasn't consulted on Barden Road, on the yellow lines. I wasn't consulted on Gilmore Road, on the reopening of Gilmore Road and Barden Road. I just feel a little bit let down that I'm not being consulted on traffic issues in my area. I'm disappointed would be the best word that I would say, because I'm here to represent my residents and the whole of the city, and I don't feel I can do that without the correct information. So the writing of this report was incorrect in that divisional councillors were not consulted, because I wasn't in this instance. And I would like, I suppose, better communication between your team, Megan, and Mr. Director and myself. I also note that I'm having to go out to Beenleigh Road this afternoon to discuss a footpath that didn't come with Beenleigh Road because somehow the incline of the walkway is too much for council to deal with. So again, another project where something was removed or changed and I wasn't consulted. So I won't be voting for this today. I think it sets an expectation that we're going to do something, and I understand that there have been crashes there, but I have businesses whose livelihoods operate from there and they haven't been considered in this process, and I'm really disappointed in that. So thank you.
Did you guys want to answer that or no, just move on?
Through the chair, just quickly, I do acknowledge that you feel like you haven't received the consultation on a number of different matters. We are certainly having internal conversations about how to better feedback various initiatives that are happening to you. Specifically for this program, we do encourage councillors at the regular traffic meetings to raise any nominated sites that they think could be considered for a future application, and we can investigate it. But I appreciate you didn't realise that was an option.
Thanks. And just for clarification, I don't need feedback. I'd like consultation if that's okay.
Note.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Wilcox.
Thanks very much. Thank you for this, and thank you, Carl, for answering my questions on email regarding Teviot Stony Camp. So my questions for you are, Teviot Road and Stony Camp is a high-risk crash intersection, from my understanding. Pretty much has weekly crashes there. There was one there just the other day. They're crashes that not all of them get reported, but they're very clear that they actually do happen. So my question is, why, in a nutshell, hasn't this intersection made the list and I know that there's upgrades planned, but even with the upgrades planned, if it's not coming for quite some time, why aren't we applying for funding to attract it to this intersection, to add it to the funding pool so that we can actually get the intersection upgrade moved along?
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Through the chair, in terms of Stony Camp and Teviot Road, I acknowledge it has been identified as having a number of serious crashes over a period of time. The intersection itself, in order to address those crashes and to meet the qualifying eligibility criteria, we would have to come up with a cost-effective solution that addresses those crashes. And in order to do that, the only real way of addressing that is through signalisation. And to achieve a signalised intersection that has already been designed as part of the broader project, it requires the road to be raised up to achieve adequate sight lines. It also it also becomes a bit redundant, given that the road upgrade is, as far as I'm concerned, imminent. So by the time we actually come to do the Black Spot project, hopefully we would be coming along and actually doing the road upgrade. So it would be either there might be a 1 or 2 year difference, but council would look pretty bad having put in an interim solution, then coming through and just changing it altogether and upgrading it fully. So there are a number of things that have been considered, but we just can't. We haven't identified a solution that would fit all the criteria and wouldn't be redundant in a very short period of time.
So my question is, and you were talking about co-contributing before, which I totally agree with. I don't want it to be redundant. I would like to do it once and do it properly, which is my ultimate goal, so we actually don't keep coming back and doing things. But isn't there a way that if we applied for the funding, we can co-contribute and we can do it to ultimate design rather than doing an imminent or rather doing an interim design? Because you've said imminent, how close is imminent as well? So 2 parts to the question.
Excuse me, Carl, the director wants to jump in.
If that's okay. Councillor Wilcox. The project at the intersection of Stony Camp and Teviot is a significant project. As you know, it's been one that we've had planning on for quite some time. We've done a significant amount of work there already in acquiring land, which will allow us to actually relocate that road as well as actually elevate that intersection. The intersection itself will cost us significantly more than the threshold that we're talking about for our Black Spot program, and doesn't really fall within, I guess, the flavour of what the state and the federal government are looking for Black Spots, where they're actually looking for us to have, I guess, reasonable cost solutions which actually provide a benefit in regards to road safety. So the upgrade that we need to do at Stony Camp is significant and will cost us a significant amount of money, and we couldn't achieve it with minimal changes at that location. To that extent, where we've actually looked at the locations which we've put forward under the program, we've looked at areas that I guess align with the ethos that's being pushed under the federal program. It's been part of what we've done over time to maximise what we actually see come out of that program. The intersection that we're talking about at Stony Camp does have funding and will be upgraded. There is potential, even with an application, if we did put it in the Black Spot program, for that to actually then slow down what we actually do in regards to that intersection as well. So to that extent, for those reasons, it's not one that we've included.
Okay. I have another question, but I'll leave it for GB because it's about funding, because you just said funding. My other question then is Teviot Road and Scotts Lane, with a fatality at the intersection and numerous high-risk crashes at that intersection. How come that one didn't make it through to the list? And that one I totally forgot about asking about.
I guess we'll have to take that on notice. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that exact location. I'm not sure the fatality was right at the intersection. But
it was the motorbike accident that happened last year.
Yeah, okay. that's maybe one incident. I'm not sure about a regular occurrence of serious incidents at that intersection that would actually qualify. It certainly wasn't identified through the analysis of the whole crash database, and so, but we can certainly look at that in isolation and see what can be done in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Stemp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I just wanted to say thank you because that funding for West Mount Cotton Road, that's something we've been advocating for a while. There's a lot of accidents up on that corner. We've done everything we can in our capacity to try and solve the problem, and really pleased to see that funding go through. And obviously Leader Street, which is one was done for a previous program. I haven't seen or heard of any accidents that have happened after that too. So I just want to say it's good to see when this funding does come through and the benefits. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stemp. Mr. Mee.
Not to step on the divisional councillor's toes, but I'm going to wade into Division 5. The Carl McCarthy and Third, I've been a councillor in that area for 8 years. I can think of 2 accidents, neither serious. How come it made the criteria?
Through the chair, the McCarthy and Third has actually recorded 9 serious incidents in the last 5 years, all mostly related to the operations of the roundabout that's currently there. And so the proposed treatment is to tighten up that roundabout, make it more geometrically sound, have better approach angles, and also at the same time improve pedestrian access across that intersection, because it's pretty poor at the moment. All roundabouts are pretty poor, but the solution that we're proposing is to slow down the traffic coming into the roundabout while at the same time provide priority crossings for pedestrians.
And were those 9 with people speeding through the roundabout, so they're coming off the roundabout? Is that what's going on? Or are they actual people hitting each other?
No, they were collisions between vehicles,
Okay.
I believe, mostly in the roundabout. Yeah.
And then, so if McCarthy and Third meet the criteria, why don't McCarthy and Second and Coolmunda and Second? Because those ones have regular near misses, like multiple times a day near misses, despite the previous divisional councillor doing a bang-up job of trying to resolve that. And also fatalities and also serious crashes. And it's just a bad section of road. It's got two T intersections within like 150 metres of each other, right?
Again, we could look at that in isolation, but it certainly didn't trigger the number of crashes that we were seeing at that one particular intersection at Third and McCarthy. So, yep.
I guess the challenge there is that in 8 years, one complainant is a bloke that lives on the corner because he was concerned about that eventually a car might come through his fence. Whereas Coolmunda, McCarthy and Second, there's a little section of road, I reckon I get blown up about that, and I'm sure that Councillor Jackson does as well, once every 2 or 3 weeks, because of how dangerous people feel it is there, and they just feel like they sort of close their eyes and pray when they pull out because of the poor visibility and the speed criteria of the zone there. So it just, when you see stuff like that, and same thing with Mark Lane, I understood the crashes on Mark Lane and Logan Reserve Road were from driver error on behalf of motorbikes, and not just driver error overtaking on the left-hand side and having a fatality because they were completely breaking the law, and nothing we can do about road design changes that, right? So what is driving Mark Lane and Logan Reserve Road?
Well, Mark Lane and Logan Reserve Road have had one serious incident a year in the last 5 years, I believe. I'm not sure about the composition, whether it was motorbikes or not, but it's that interaction between that dog leg with Kingston Road through that environment, and so it's an opportunity to do a low-cost treatment to slow down that environment and get better control of vehicle movements through the intersection and just make it safer. It's not I don't think it's a huge expense, this particular treatment we're proposing. So it's one of those, it's a quick win to try to address that particular issue. But I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but it's just been, I guess it's been independently identified as a potential, as a hotspot, for instance, and so we're just proposing to treat it to improve the conditions in that area. So.
And so, are you going to put in a traffic island that stops people overtaking on the left-hand side through an intersection?
What is being proposed is to slow down through the intersection using some sort of platforms in that area. So, we will come up with a design and liaise further with the local councillor, and go forward if we think it's an appropriate solution.
So and that's fine. And if you're going to stop people from overtaking on the left, that's great. The challenge, I guess, is that there's a lot of traffic that uses the top end of Logan Reserve Road, and it interfaces with Kingston Road. If what you're going to do is stop people from being able to overtake when someone's turning right into Mark Lane from Logan Reserve Road, then there's going to be a lot of traffic issues. So if slowing down includes like reducing the lane width so you can't overtake people who are turning right, then that would be problematic, to say the least, for locals. The local council would hear all about it very quickly, and I'm sure I would shortly thereafter.
So certainly the need to maintain movements through the intersection will be looked at, and the whole idea is that's why the solution is just to provide some sort of platform treatment that would just slow down traffic rather than necessarily force traffic to go a certain way. So.
And just to be clear, none of that information is in the report, right? I didn't miss something.
No. Let's see. Mark intersection. No, just traffic calming. Yeah. So yeah. Yep.
Helpful to have the context of what you're intending in the report, even if it's just a brief description like what you provided there, so we've got an idea of what we're looking at. Saves you answering questions in committee. Because again, I hear far more complaints about Kumunda 2nd and McCarthy than I ever do about Mark. And residents use the road every day far more than, as a cohort, they have far more interactions with these intersections than anyone in this room does combined, right? So when they're raising it, I feel like their feedback is valuable because they're living there and they're using it multiple times a day and they're experiencing the stress that goes with that and the fear. So if the residents are raising concerns about it, I'd just like to see that gets prioritised, because we're ultimately here to make sure that they feel safe on the roads as well.
Sure. Appreciate your feedback on Kumunda. So, yep.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much. One of the things that was really helpful was to see the crash stats for the reason why council wants to put forward a road. I would imagine I get notifications when there's been a death on the road, but I don't get it when there's been crashes. So my understanding of what crashes are occurring versus councils are quite different. So I think if it could be a matter of process that when these recordable accidents happen, that council has been notified, that probably gives us a better understanding and stops any misunderstanding when it comes to these reports coming forward. Would that be something you might consider as part of your review, Megan?
As the incidents occur, we don't necessarily find out about them. It is the fatalities that we also get reported on. When it comes to making the report about what we're proposing to put up as black spots, yes, we'll take that on board and can include the number of crashes in that.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Good job. Oh, hang on, Councillor Jackson.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Just on the consultation thing, I don't remember being consulted either on this through traffic engineer meetings or anything else. So both of these Div 5 treatments surprised me because I've never had community talk to me about them either. What's the consultation process from here if we approve this? Are councillors involved in the ongoing treatment?
So yeah, we're still. I mean, as you can tell by the report, we haven't finalised what sort of design we've actually proposed for all the locations. I mean, when it's just signalisation, it's pretty clear. For the likes of Logan Reserve and Mark Lane, the reason why we don't have a treatment listed there is because we don't actually haven't actually finalised how to best treat it that will meet the criteria. Because any treatment that we do apply need to be targeted on the types of crashes that are occurring to actually achieve a benefit in accordance with the scoring system for black spots. I'd like to clarify that in terms of consulting with councillors, that was just one form of input to the process of identifying black spot locations. What was meant was that if councillors raised area locations that were that they knew experiencing a lot of serious crashes and would like that intersection or location to be treated, we would have considered it as part of the black spot process. It wasn't intended to say that all these locations that we've identified came out of or were included any consultation with councillors up to this point in time. But we will take that on board, and as we begin the process, we will do better in terms of liaising with councillors and informing on what locations are potential black spots and the sort of treatments that might be considered at those locations. Going forward, when we've finalised the actual designs, we'll be sure to liaise with the councillors to indicate what sort of projects we're putting up for submission this round. So,
through you, Mr. Chair, if I can maybe just talk to that a little bit further as well. So this is a submission process to actually receive the funding. So we put together the indicative solutions that would be to meet the issue that's there, and that speaks to the criteria that the state has. Similar to the two projects that we've only recently been announced, when they come back, they effectively go to our road infrastructure delivery branch where we actually do detailed design to be able to actually deliver those projects. So part of that process where we're doing the actual detailed design, we would actually be coming back to councillors to engage with them on those projects at that more detailed stage as well. So there is really multiple stages to that. This is really the process around the application for the funding.
Thank you for that. And I do want to acknowledge that this is a very, the matrix of criteria is pretty complex and that you're weaving together something pretty unique. But I would, now that I know that you're looking for that sort of information out of my traffic engineers meetings, I'll be more conscious of that in the future. Thank you.
Councillor St Ledger.
I'll buck the trend a bit. I was fortunate enough, Shane and Laura's consultation was really good around the project you've got in here for Yarrabilba, so it's been an ongoing issue there. There's been quite a couple of incidents there over the last 12 months, so they did a great job. I just want to say thanks for them for getting it in there and doing the hard work to do it. So maybe I'll be on the other side of the fence next time, but I do appreciate the consultation and getting that in there to be put forward, so thank you.
Councillor Lane.
Mr. Chair, on a matter of process, I'm wondering whether or not we can defer this report to General Council, so maybe the businesses in Queen's Road that will be impacted by a potential intersection might be consulted. I really want to vote for this. I mean, you've taken into consideration the whole Ewing Road, Defiance Road thing, and that's super cool for my residents. I just want us to have the opportunity to actually quickly consult with the business owners to see what that sort of thing would look like. We know what an intersection looks like, we know what the setbacks are, but I just would love to have that discussion with businesses. Is that possible at all, Director, or is that not it's too short a time frame?
I'll go through the chair, but I'll test the original motion first. If that fails, for sure you can put an alternative recommendation in.
I'm happy to test the original motion, yes. In terms of engagement with the businesses, I'm certainly happy that we could do that process even if it was while the application was actually in with the state. So when we get a response, we still have to work through what the details are. So if we had funding for a treatment at that intersection when it was in the detailed design section with RID, so the design office itself, there would be engagement then in regards to what the impacts would be. And we would certainly be taking on board their feedback at that time, the same as with your feedback at that time as well. So I guess the real question at the moment is probably the one around whether we make application for the intersection. It's not necessarily locking in what the treatment will actually be.
Yeah, well, I haven't had the chance to speak to the other divisional councillor who's on the other side of the road. But certainly if there's a way that we can consult with businesses during that process, you're happy for that to happen? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, and thanks, Carl. Just wanted to, when you were talking about the process of the local councillor talking to the traffic engineer, like that intersection I was talking about in particular, but we've spoken about that probably every 6 months for the past 8 years, so well known. But more broadly, and not for you, Carl, but more for the director, is that consultations with councillors is consultation with the community. They're actually a really easy shortcut for you to speak to the community because they're all out in their communities talking to people every single weekend. So when you, and during the weeks as well, so when you raise something with a councillor, they automatically and instinctively go back to the well, which is the people that elected them, and say, hey, what do you think about this idea? So I know it can be a drag sometimes, but it is so valuable for you to speak to councillors because if they know what's going on, the community know what's going on, and everybody supports the work that your team is doing. When they don't know what's going on, you get little spot fires going off everywhere going, I don't understand how we got to this point. Why haven't I been able to speak to my community about this, whether that's business community or someone else? So just want to re-emphasise how important it is to keep councillors in the loop so that the community is involved as well because they are literally the voices of the community in this place. And so the more time you spend talking to them, the better everything goes for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got to go to bat for my traffic guys. Like, couldn't be better. Like it's, and we sit down and I'm not saying I do it better than everyone else. I'm just saying.
Everyone can always be better.
All I'm just saying is I have a list and we sit there and Sanjeev goes through all these things. I'm not saying my way's better than everyone else's. I'm just saying I could, like he's great. I've never had any dramas with it. We go through where to put traffic, like everything, like traffic counters, fatalities, flood immunity. We go through all that. So in 5 years' time, I'm looking at it and say, why is there? So I've got to go to bat for Sanjeev and for Carl because like I've found them great. And if you're getting 20% of the budget on 77 councillors, like you're getting more than 10 or 15 councillors combined for yourself. So obviously you've got this down pat. So there's a motion on the board. If you have a read, I've got a mover and Councillor St Ledger, seconder and Councillor Murphy. All those in favour could please raise your hand. That's been carried unanimously except Tony Hall. Councillor Hall, are you in favour? That's been carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That's the end of reports. Does anyone have any business for Ms Megan Gould at all, GB? There being none, thank you guys. Thank you for your work. That concludes the agenda for today. Does anybody have any general business for Mr Darryl Riley? Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you. Paul might want to pop up for this as well. Come on.
I'll call Paul up. Could the manager please come up, Mr.
Thank you. Just wanted to say thanks. We had a lane switch on Teviot Road over the weekend. It worked smoothly. I didn't cop any grief or anything like that. I don't think council did either. So thank you for that. It actually went really well. But I just wanted to clarify something that we were just talking about. And you were talking about funding for Stony Camp Road intersection and hopefully that whole intersection, including the roundabout and that sort of thing. And I know I've asked both of you this before, and I know that Paul's working on a list to get to me what's funded in the next 2 years and that sort of thing. Can you clarify, because you just said there is funding for the Stony Camp Road intersection, and I'm assuming that whole stage. Is it funded? And if it is, when's it going to be delivered? Because I have sent Paul an email this morning following up on UPP through EDQ because it's federal, so Ruth will be following that up, and I'll give her a week to follow up that funding. So if you have something to tell me, that would be great.
Which gentleman wants this question? They're all doing this one. They're all doing this. They're all doing this.
No, I'm happy to take the question. So, under the sub-regional infrastructure agreement, there was a overall project which sat between Middle Road and Greenbank Road. Part of that is the work which is currently being done at Leanne Court. The funding allocation within the AFM, so the agreed financial model between council and the developers, had an amount of funding for that whole overall program. the cost to actually do the whole of that section significantly exceeded the funding that was available within that model. So we as an organisation have actually been reviewing that scope for the whole of the works to actually pick out the areas which are of highest importance, of which Leanne Court was in that category. And so next under that is Middle Road and Stony Camp. So we're currently pulling apart the design that we have to actually create a sub-project of that which would look at those two locations as the highest priority still within that treatment. So that's an ongoing piece of work for us at the moment, and we can come back and talk to you about that once we've actually done that piece. But there is still funding available within the sub-regional infrastructure agreement for that overall portion. It's just a matter of actually selecting out what we should do as the highest priority and that we can actually afford.
So, afford it is the question, and because it's meant to be the roundabout and the Stony Camp Road intersection, and I know I've been spoken to going, which one are we going to do? Are we going to split it in two, do two different projects, stuff like that? So that's been my understanding. So if we can't afford it, which is, I'm assuming why we've been applying for UPP, because we can't actually deliver the whole thing, is that what the hold up is? Because literally we don't have the funding to deliver all of this as such.
In terms of the staging, as I said, it was the entire section from Greenbank to Middle Road. The treatment at the Middle Road roundabout and the Stony Camp intersection, because of their really close proximity together, it would be difficult for us to do one in isolation of the other, particularly given that there's actually significant elevation in height that we need to do at Stony Camp, plus a deviation on the road to actually come back from the railway corridor. So it's being looked at together in terms of Middle Road and Stony Camp, but we just need to get to the end of that piece of work. I can't talk to it until we've actually finished it.
You know, I'm going to keep pressing here. So when are we looking like that next stage will be delivered if there's funding sitting there? Because I'm literally getting screamed at on a daily basis about the congestion in and out of the area. So if the funding's there, when will it get delivered, in a nutshell?
We need to complete the piece of work to ensure that what we're actually going to deliver will fit within the available funding. And until we do that, I don't know that answer. So we are working on that at the moment. We should have that response soon.
So again, it just comes back to we still don't have enough funding to actually deliver the scope of works.
That's not entirely what I said. I certainly said that we don't have enough funding to be able to upgrade to 4 lanes, Teviot Road, all the way from Middle Road to Greenbank. What we are attempting to do is find the solution where we can upgrade Middle Road and Stony Camp Road within the available funding that we have. So we are trying to make that upgrade component fit within our available funding, yes. But I need to confirm that before I can confirm it to you.
Thank you. I declare that the City Infrastructure meeting, what's the date again? The 10th of June, concluded at 10:43. And next up is the lovely Councillor Murphy.